Okay.
All right, all right, all right. We are live. How is everyone doing? We are back on the book, and it's day 5 of healthy relationship tips. And this week is focused on couples. And I'm super excited because this is our first couple of the week. Actually, our
Oh,
only couple this
wow.
week.
Okay.
And so, ministers Buster and Keisha Tyson. Hi.
Hi.
What's
How
up,
y'all
family? How y'all
doing?
doing? We are well. How are you?
Let's see what they're saying to us. Folks are saying hello already.
Good,
Lakeisha
good,
said,
good.
hey, y'all. Hey, Lakeisha in Milwaukee. Yes.
Hey,
Wow. Hey, I have
Latasha
family
in
in
Atlanta. Yes. So, can
Atlanta
we?
in the house.
Yes. So, let's get started. Tell the people who you are, where you're located, and what it is that you do.
there.
Go ahead, you start.
Okay, so we're Buster and Keisha Tyson from the Soulmates Ministry 2 Divided by 2. We are couples coaches. We help married people and people that want to get married enrich their relationships. We are preparing Enrich Facilitators and uh, soon to be therapists for family and marriage. We love what we do. We're ministers. We're married to each other. We say the only thing that we're married to is each other. So we are not religiously doing one thing or the other. We've been married for 16, how long? 16 years.
This is our 16th year, but we've been married officially for 15.
15 years.
We're
We
headed into
just,
16.
yeah, we're headed into 16, but we've been together for over 20 at this point. So
Wow.
who's counting, right?
Right, because I usually get it wrong.
He does. He does usually get it wrong. He usually
It,
has more time. So
and you were
It
so
feels like
kind. You were
forever.
so kind and patient with her. You were like, it's 16. It's been 16, babe. Like,
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's us. We're located in Baltimore, Maryland, and we travel all over, just spreading the gospel of Jesus, of course, and just being advocates for marriage. We believe in marriage, we love each other, and we love God. So it's like a win-win situation for us.
that's
Do you have
awesome.
anything to add?
No, I think you covered
Okay, that's it.
That's how it's supposed to work. She said he go, that's right, babe. That's a
it.
wrap. That's a wrap. We don't need to say nothing else. Okay. So we have a couple more people. Nakaya from Georgia.
Hi, Nick.
Francis from Syracuse, New York.
What
Clinton,
up, what up?
Washington from Aiken, South Carolina.
All right, Aiken.
William Batts from Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, you have people
Yeah, what's
all
up,
over.
William?
Hi,
That's one
William.
of our
Yep.
good friends there. What's
I
up,
know
man?
him. And Dr. Candace, who was on Tuesday night, she's also in Georgia.
Hey,
So
Okay.
thank you
doctor.
all. Yes. So let's get right to it. So
Okay.
the topic that you gave to me was start strong, finish functional.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell the people what that means.
So start strong, finish functional. It just came from the thought just about joining you guys tonight and just your efforts in order to give people healthy relationship tips. And I started to think about what is it that would be the most valuable point that I could give people or that we could share with people about making a successful relationship happen. And as I pondered on that topic and those ideas, then it popped into my head. Our strong start is what made us be able to finish functional. See, the thing about that is that I never said anything about the middle because the middle is usually messy. And that's what happened with us. Our middle was messy, but because of our strong start, we was able to finish functional. It's really, really, it can go a lot deeper and I can go a lot deeper, but
You will.
and I guess I will. My wife is already giving me the head nod for it, but I just want to be, respectful of your platform as well, and we thank you for allowing us to be a part of it. One of the things that Keisha and I did when we first got together was we actually went away on vacation, and we went away for an entire weekend together. And on this weekend trip, we were alone. No kids, no friends, no other couples, no counselors, no phones, no anything. We were actually in the mountains, and we were staying in a nice little apartment townhouse type of deal, and we talked about everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, all the in between, everything that we could possibly talk about in a 48 to 72 hour time frame. We talked about and we discussed. And when we got home from that trip, we told each other that if you call me tomorrow, then it must be meant for us to be. Because that's how in-depth our conversation was. We went everywhere.
I mean, childhood trauma, rooted deep family, generational stuff. I mean, I knew when I met my husband that he was going to be my husband, but I also knew that I came with baggage. I knew that, and everyone does, to be very honest with you, everyone does. There's not a perfect person. So there's not a perfect childhood. There's not a perfect adulthood. So you're going to bring something to your relationship, to your marriage. And I wanted him to know everything. I did not want him to marry me and then look up in 2 years and say, hey, you didn't tell me about that. Or where is this depression coming from? I didn't know about that. And so I wanted him to know who I was and not just what he saw. And that was important for me because I can count on my hand how many of healthy marriages that I saw and that I came from. I come from a very long line of strong women that were business owners, and they did not need a man. And so it was important for him to know that because he did not come from that. He came from
the exact opposite.
The exact opposite.
Most of the people in my family are married and have been married for a long time. And so with that being said, we would have been going into our relationship with two totally different thought processes on how relationships should work and even how they end, right? Because my thought process is that they don't. And her process was that they always do.
Right.
And so with that being said, it allowed us to really have a strong basis for the beginning of our relationship, you know, and like I said, by it allowing us in a functional finish, right? My thought was that everybody loves something that works, right? Because if you're functional, that means that you are working properly. If you got something from the store and it is functional, then that means that it is being used to its maximum potential, so to speak, right? And so with that being said, the strong start is connected to a functional finish. Think about the relationships that start off improperly. Think about the relationships that start off with we getting married because we have kids, right? Or the relationships that start off that say we gonna do this because we've been shacking up and we don't want to be in sin no more. You know, these are the types of starts that I consider weak starts.
Right.
And so because of that, you end up getting into the middle of the messy part, so to speak, and you have no foundation to stand on because everything that you started with was weak. So now when trouble comes and starts to hit you upside the head, you don't have any shelter to hide under. You have nothing to hold you down, nothing to really grip and hold on to as a couple.
Because you haven't built anything together. You haven't had a discussion. You haven't laid the foundation. I remember when we met, when I did the training for you guys, and I talked about something as simple as putting the Bible under the foundation of the house. And that there's always something that you have to have in place that creates a foundation that represents something for you. And when couples are coming together, it makes me think about, and you guys will understand this, I know everybody who's watching won't, so I'm going to try and be very clear. When we talked about the couples map, and what you bring to the table, and also what your families have shown you over the years. What gets carried over, what gets resolved, what do you throw away to make sure it's not a part of that foundation? And so in order to finish strong, as you're talking, I keep hearing the word vulnerability, transparency, risk, that you can share information and that you're trusting this person with your life.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. So you mentioned something about the Bible, right? And so that opens up a door for me to be able to delve into it a little bit deeper. And that door, what it looks like on the inside is that when God created marriage, he created a woman out of a man. Mm-hmm. And so with that being said, he used the rib of Adam, right? We know that if we have any Bible knowledge at all, we know that he used the rib of Adam in order to create Eve. Mm-hmm. Now, he's God. So he could have put his hand in the dirt and created Eve the same way he created Adam. Mm-hmm. But he used something that was on the inside of him in order to create her. So that means that God built the system with a bond already included. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's what I'm talking about, starting strong. Mm-hmm. Because our conversations that we had on that trip, our getting to know each other, our identifying with each other was a part of us creating a bond. Right. So the question for your listeners and your watchers are, what is binding you to your partner? Mm. Is there anything that holds you to your mate that allows you to say, you know what, even though times might be tough, I'm going to get connected back to him. Mm. Even though we might be going through a difficult situation right now, I'm going to stay connected to my rib. Mm-hmm. Right? Because we all have these scenarios that go on in our head. If this happens, that's the what is that? That's the deal breaker, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm.
All or nothing, catastrophic thinking.
But in our world, in my Christian type of world where we are right now, because like I say right now, because it was a process for us to get here. I'm nothing is going to tear me away from myself.
Right.
So if she was created out of me, then that means that me leaving her or her leaving me means that I'm leaving myself.
So you're talking about what has been mentioned all week, and that's the power of being intentional.
Definitely.
Remembering exactly why you're connected and the purpose in which you're connected for. So it keeps you connected no matter what, regardless of how you feel.
Because sometimes they say, what's love got to do with it? You know what I mean? It's just sometimes those feelings aren't enough.
It's not, but it does have a lot.
Sometimes those feelings aren't enough.
That's right.
And with God being a infinite God, right? He knew that we were going to let him down. So why did he make us and then breathe his breath into us, right? That was the first bond. The first bond came from God to man. Mm-hmm. And then the second bond came from man and woman. Mm-hmm. And so when I talk about these things, I'm talking about the strong starts, because this is how creation started with man. Mm. And this is what says to me that he used an internal system for an eternal purpose, right? Because he knew that he wanted people to be married together. He wanted man and woman to be married together. Because the point of it was that man should not be alone. Right? And so if that's the case, then he had to create a system. His whole system started internally. It came from him. Let us make man in our image. And then he blew the breath of life into man. Right. And then he took the rib out of a man and created a woman. So all of these things started internally, and it was the bond that keeps them together. It's the bond that keeps us in Christ together, right? If you keep backing out of the situation. But let's go back to marriage and back to you, because I might be going too far for some of you guys that's listening, but this is how I get when I start talking about my wife and I start talking about God at the same time. It's hard to stop me. But in the simplistic world, right, we're saying that if you find what really connects you and your spouse, you'll be able to withstand the test of time.
Okay, so now that you said all that, because I know we have a lot of, and we always appreciate the male's perspective because we don't get a chance to hear the male's perspective a whole lot. And so I know we have a lot of ladies on here, and I know they want to hear from Minister Tekesha. And I want you to piggyback on what Minister Buster just said. Because he went deep. He went deep. We got a couple of tear emojis, Minister Buster. We got a couple of wows.
I'm sorry, y'all. It's
no, this is good.
I mean, that's just. I'm sorry.
This is good. No apologies. No, this is good.
We got 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You got 9 of them.
No. I don't need that much. Okay, so is there a particular question or just to piggyback off of it?
Just piggyback or go into, so when you're talking about being intentional, talk about that role when you, of what it's like being transparent as that woman, sharing things, or what it was like for you even hearing from Minister Buster, like when he said some things that probably could have been deal breakers for both of you. It's like, oh, they got that going on. But it didn't happen that way.
Right, and because I always thought that my childhood was more traumatic than my husband's, because he came from a 2-parent household. His parents were still married. Unfortunately, a lot of my husband's battles were internal and mine were external. So I lived and I was very well taken care of. I was raised by my grandmother. She had a good job. We had a house in the suburbs. I mean, it for me on the outside, for people to see, I lived with my grandmother and we had a nice car. We went to church on Sundays. I mean, we did the things that people do. But the first question is, why does she live with her grandmother? So
where your mama at?
Right.
It's still funny though.
Right. But that's the first thing. So
right.
I came from a single parent household that wasn't even really my parent. It was my mother's mom. And so I dealt with that, the issues of surrounding my parents, why I wasn't with them, and all of the trauma that led from that. And so that was all external, where my husband was battling things on the inside. So for me, I'm thinking I can handle his issues. That's easy. I am very strong. And I think that the reason why I am so strong is because I was able to deal with all that trauma. That was my defense mechanism. If I can get through that, I can get through anything. And even today, that still drives me. I've been through that. And so for me, it's like, okay, pull up your bootstraps. Let's get it going. There's no excuse why we can't get it done. I had to adapt to his issues. So for me, adapting to his, to me, it was a little bit harder for me to adapt to his because my husband suffered from depression. I didn't know what depression looked like. I didn't understand depression because I didn't have time to be depressed. And so for me, that was the hard part. For me, it was like, I just told our children over the weekend, because we explained to them for the first time, we have a oldest daughter is 20, but the 15-year-old and the 10-year-old, we explained to them that we had went to the mountains, just like we had just recently took them. And this is where mom and dad came, and this is what we went through, and this is how we started our relationship. And I didn't think dad was going to call after that. And, and they're looking like with their eyes all wide because they don't know anything different than us loving each other.
That's right. Yeah.
And so it was very eye-opening for them. But I remember, when my husband dropped me off after that weekend, I remember saying, he's not going to call me. Like he didn't have to deal with drug abuse. He didn't have to deal with molestation. He didn't have to deal with, just all of the things that I had gone through that was so foreign to him. And for me, what my husband looked like was attractive to me. Because he came from a 2-parent household. His parents were still together. They're still together right now. They look like they're very much in love. He went to church on Sunday. He looked like what I longed for. So one of the things that I will say to you ladies is be careful of what you're attracted to. Not only how you lay your foundation, but what's driving you to that person in the first place. See, the foundation is honestly second. What attracts you, what's your lust is actually first. So are you really seeking after that person because God told you to, because you're called to that person, or because you just want something to taste a little different than what you used to? Luckily for me, I've always heard from God. I've not always listened to him, but I've always, that's important. I've always heard from him. So when we started the broadcast, I told you I knew he was going to be my husband. And that is also another thing that I will say in this house. It still works the same exact way. I always hear from God first. My husband always hears from him second.
Interesting.
Always.
Okay, so we have 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
So we have 4 minutes. So what I want you to do when you talk about start strong, finish functional, you gave us the history. You told us what this middle looked like for you two, what you've been working on all this time. What are the tips? What are the things that you can give to our listeners, married, engaged, single, seriously dating, divorce, whatever it may be? What message or what tips can you leave them with to encourage them to make sure that they're getting or walking into a healthy relationship?
Know who you are. Know who you are. It is impossible for you to get someone else to accept you for you if you don't know who you are. That's the first thing that I will say is get to know who you are. We were so young. We were still figuring it out. And even though we laid that foundation on that weekend that we went away, we even thought then that we knew who we were. And we didn't. We didn't know who we are. So the messy middle came because then we started to realize, you know what? I don't like you. It's not, I didn't like Busta, but I didn't like me.
Right.
And so when you figure, I tell our children, I tell our couples, I tell anybody that follows us, that your taste buds change every 6 months.
Right. So that leads to tip number 2, and that's be flexible. You have to be flexible because in the relationship and even in life, we're continuing to grow. We're always growing. We're always moving to another level. We're always moving to a next step. So you have to be flexible at all times. The moment you get rigid is the moment that there becomes a problem in your relationship. Because you turn over and you look at your partner and you don't recognize who that person is anymore.
Wow.
Because you thought that it was going to be the same person in year number 10 that it was in year number 5. And that person has now changed and you were left behind.
Absolutely.
You were stuck in your rigid space and now you're trying to figure out who is this, right? And so with that being said, you have to first know your identity. But second of all, you have to be flexible. Because your identity will change. Who you are as a 20-year-old is not the person you are as a 30-year-old. And you can keep going down the line because at 30, you're not who you were, who you are at 40. The cycle continues to go on. But the moment you get stuck on the wheel is the moment you're starting to lose your relationship.
Wow. Yeah, I heard it here. And Al-Shanita said, how do you get through that middle, tough times and the test? You answered that, know your identity, be flexible, and pray.
Yeah, I know this isn't like a spiritual channel right now, but like that literally, it helped us. I mean, we prayed together. We pray together. We pray before we even get our morning started. We pray with the kids before they go to school. Prayer has to be the foundation of your marriage or it will not last.
Right. So that part is for how to get through the messy part, prayer, right? But the second tip to getting through is to keep going.
Yeah, don't stop.
Don't stop.
You can't get through anything if you stop in the middle of it. If you're trying to go through a tunnel and you stop in the middle of it, you never make it through the tunnel.
I don't care how much light you see on the other end. If you stagnant, you're just stagnant. So don't give up. Divorce is not an option. Marriage is worth it. It's worth the fight. It's worth the tears. It's worth it. If your marriage ended, it wasn't meant to be. Maybe you were married to the wrong person. I'm an advocate of marriage. We have seen it. We know people that are absolutely married to the wrong person. But the Bible tells you that it's better to not make a vow than to make one and break one. So if you broke it and you're looking to get married again, God bless you. But know that if you haven't corrected the problems from the first marriage, it's going to follow you into the second.
It's a cycle. All right, y'all. Y'all heard it here. So that concludes that 30-minute chat. And I hope you took notes, because I've been telling y'all all week, take notes. This is free tips. This is free stuff. Don't miss this.
Fast, I'll tell you that.
It goes by very fast. It goes by very fast. So it's like you got to, keep jumping in. But before we go, Ministers Buster and Tekesha, please tell the people how they can find you, what's coming up next for you.
Oh gosh.
You can find us at 2 Divided by 2 on all social media platforms. 2 Divided by 2. The number 2 divided by the number 2 is our handle on Instagram and Facebook.
And www.2dividedby2.com. There's a couples blog. We have some really secret things coming in the works in the next 30 days or so, so stay tuned.
But we're also helping to sponsor a couples retreat in February.
Couples retreat, February 22nd through the, look on the website.
20 through 22nd.
Yes, in Kings Mill Resort, located in Williamsburg, Virginia. So please come check us out. It's going to be fabulous.
Dr. Oliver Reed is going to be one of our guests there.
Yes, Dr. Oliver. Yay.
Give him a shout out.
Yes. So please come.
Awesome. I am actually tagging him right now. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I so appreciate you guys. This is awesome. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Huh?
I said thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Anytime. All right, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.